The title of the presentation is Freedom of Expression in Context of Fake News, Croatian Contemporary Criminal Law Perspective. She's from the University of Zagreb, of course, Faculty of Law. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Zodl.
Sorry for your name.
No, everything's fine. Do you hear me? Because I will be wearing the mask. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to give my gratitude to Professor Szilágyi and the whole Ferenc Medal Institute for having me today here with you, especially Professor Dragičević, who recommended me. And I will also like to say hello to all the professors, all ladies and gentlemen here. I would like to present you the topic, freedom of expression in context of fake news, Croatian contemporary criminal law perspective. While I was thinking about this, I wanted to have an interesting presentation dealing with some issues that I hoped today are not dealt with. The content of my presentation, I imagine it like to give some introduction about sources of freedom of expression in Croatian law system, then something to say about freedom of expression, although we heard about it today a lot. So I would be focusing on some key issues. Then to say something about fake news issues, and at the end, conclusion or something. It's not a really conclusion, more like questions. So, of course, we have our constitution and we have Article 38 that actually guarantees the freedom of expression. Also, we have regulated the restrictions in Article 16. Then, of course, the main document dealing with freedom of expression, I would dare to say that is European Convention of Human Rights. You also all know the Article 10 of this convention, but also I would like to point out some issues regarding restrictions of freedom of expression. Then we have our Penal Code, of course, Media Act and Electronic Media Act. Also, we have Misdemeanors Act against public order and peace. Why is that act relevant? Because it has one misdemeanor relating to fake news. And that's the only misdemeanor which is connected to fake news. So the question were, and you all dealt with this or these questions, what is actually freedom of expression? How is defined? Does it have some limits or not, or it's limitless? Where it ends, and who is here to determine where it ends? The most common definition is in Article 10, so I wouldn't be going through all that, but only to remind you that it is the freedom to hold opinions, to receive and impart information and ideas. And that would be without interference of public authority and regardless of frontiers, whatever it means, only frontiers. The notion frontiers. Then we have violation of freedom of thought and expression in our Penal Code. And in the content actually is the same, but maybe more precise than Article 10, paragraph 1. So whoever denies the limits of freedom of speech, public expression, freedom of the press, or other media, or the free establishment of mass media. So the censorship is forbidden, and it's forbidden if it's unlawful. Then again, what I want you to bear in mind while we are having this conversation and this presentation is that some directives of the European Union, as well as some other acts from other, let's say, from civil point of view, from civil legal branch, they actually are saying to the press, to the social networking, social networks, that they have to censorship their own content. And then again, we have censorship, which is forbidden. At the other hand, so freedom of expression, we can say, has limits, right? We can agree upon that. Can we or not? I think we can. We can agree that freedom of expression has its limits. But what are their boundaries? I can say that I'm rather positive that boundaries are criminal offenses. So that's why I'm starting from criminal offenses, because it's kind of very clear situation. So these are the restrictions of the freedom of expression. And the restrictions, they are not saying anything about criminal offenses. Actually, there is one paragraph, 6th, for the prevention of disorder or crime, but it doesn't say it has to be a criminal offense. So the boundaries are here in Article 2. It is the freedom of expression stops where someone else's rights begins. And it can be, or must be, those restrictions must be prescribed by law, must be necessary in the democratic society, and must fulfill the test of proportionality. Also, there are other irrelevant focuses, or we can say limits, that can be and are the limits of freedom of expression. Those are interests of national security, territorial integrity, public safety, very often, very mentioned, protection of health or morals of other, protection of the reputation or rights of other, prevention of disclosure of information received in confidence, and maintaining the authority and partiality of the judiciary. So these 10 dots are actually the restrictions of freedom of expression, limits of freedom of expression. So yes, in Croatian criminal code we have some criminal offenses, and later on I will say its connection to those connection of criminal offenses to the fake news. So we have insult, we have defamation, we have false alarm, we have public incitement to violence and hatred, which is actually hate speech, and also all other verbal delicts, such as aiding and abetting in a crime, instigation to a crime. We don't have the limits, the freedom of expression in such cases. We can say, I won't be going through all these criminal offenses, but I would like to share with you some thoughts. What if, and what would be the public incitement to violence and hate speech? What if the news reports transferred the idea or saying that Pope said, let all the Muslims die from COVID or Corona? Then the other example is Milanović, that is our Croatian president, said that illegal immigrants from Syria should die. Are such things fake news? Who can say that they are fake news? News report, third example, at the Bishops' Conference in Croatia, concluded that all homosexuals must die. That all would be a criminal offense, and we don't have to determine whether it's true or not. But in some other cases, there is of highest importance that we determine whether something is fake or not. And I don't think that we have dealt here today enough with that meaning, what is true and what is fake. We have seen a lot of legal documents, legal boundaries, let's say, legal regulations, how should be regulated, but yet we don't know what the fake news are. There is several definitions, and every law in every country, not every, but laws in every country has their own definitions. There are only some of them. Professor Dragičević said some of them. European Commission has one definition. This is like false stories that appear to be news, spread on the internet or using other media, usually created to influence political views or as a joke. That's one of the definition of fake news. Then to be news articles that are intentionally verifiably false and could mislead readers. That's other. We have lots of them. Actually, we don't have any one uniform definition of fake news. Then again, how do we know if something is fake or not? The notion of news should be objective. The information, the content of the news must be information which is objective, accurate, and among all true. So when we are saying fake news, actually we are using oxymoron. Fake news, fake true, right? So there is also some definition about fake news when it is misinformation or disinformation. Misinformation is unintentional spreading of fake news, and disinformation is intentional spreading of fake news. So, bearing in mind that there is a lot to say about the content of the fake news, we have lots of types of fake news. Satire and parody. Actually, it's concluded that they are not fake news. But then again, we have fabricated news, political or economic motivation can be political or economic. Then we have photo manipulation, advertising. You also know that advertising is not correct always, not in most cases. Public relations, propaganda in political views. So, yes, we have a problem here. And that problem is the content. We can say the content is the problem, the source is the problem, the format is the problem, and of course the audience is the problem. Why? How can you determine, again, I'm always saying this question, whether some news is fake or not? Who are you to determine if that is fake news or not? Who is authorized to determine whether something is fake or not? What the percentage of the news must be true that we can say, oh, this is a true information or this is a fake information, this is fake news? What is the attention? So, let's see some examples. Let's see some statements. COVID is a dangerous and unpredictable disease. Can we say it's a false or true statement? I think that most of us would agree that this is true information. But if we put something upon that, like COVID is dangerous and unpredictable disease because the vaccinated people are spreading the mutated virus, is it fake or true? So that's question one. Earth is flat. Is it fake or true? News report again. Milanović, Croatian president, said COVID is like a flu. Do you think it's a true or a fake? I think that most of you would say it's fake, but it's not. That's what our president said 2 years ago. Actually, yeah, 2 years ago. Now he has changed his opinion, but that's what he said, and we all heard it because media coverage was very precise. News report, again, leading epidemiologist in Croatia said that masks don't protect, as maybe some other people think, from COVID. Is it fake or true? Today we know that it's not true. But the source, and the source is the main epidemiologist, said that it doesn't protect us. So, who is here to say that is fake news? Am I? I'm not an epidemiologist. although I know that's not true. So does it constitute a fake news? If I don't know that, how the press will know that? How the social media will know that? I don't think they are able to establish whether it's something fake news or not. Then there is one very interesting example of that was a real event. On December 4, 2016, a man carrying an assault rifle walked into the pizza restaurant in Washington, D.C., considering that the place headquarters of underground child sex ring allegedly run by presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and John Podesta. This story was motivated by some political gain. So, it was, of course, a fake news. So fake news can be very dangerous, I agree. But how can we determine whether it's fake news? I'm always bearing in mind this question. Then again, we have Orson Welles' science fiction drama. I think that you all know that. It was a radio show where a Martian invasion in 1938, the War of the World. And actually, that was a fake news, right? Or that was a parody or satire. No, it was a drama. And it was why they consider it the truth, because that was transferred by radio, which was the only media that actually covered information in that time. So almost 1 million residents were frightened. There was panic. People were in panic. That's one example of fake news. So these are the questions that I have been asking myself all the time. And I have to say that I don't have answers on that questions. I can only say that fake news can be and can have very serious repercussions. But how can I say whether something is fake news or not? Always, I cannot. Maybe some specialists can. Then again, I would like to ask you one other question. If Albert Einstein said and proposed his theory of relativity in the time of 1915, when nobody understood what we are talking about, and it was published not in a scientific newspapers or by a scientific publisher, but in the newspapers, media, who would say then that he was spreading fake news? Almost everybody. And then again, we have now the possibility to say, no, he was right. And now we have technology that can prove his ideas and theories. Then, back then, we didn't have. So, the question is about objective circumstances. If they can be proved by existing technology, then we can say, oh, if something is fake or not. But what if they're of some other sort that cannot be proved by existing technologies? Are they automatically considered to be fake or not? Or maybe we have to wait to see. There was a question if the Earth is flat. Of course, there are some people who still believe that is flat. But back then, in Copernicus' time, it was considered that Earth is flat, and heliocentric system didn't exist. Copernicus was the one who was spreading fake news, although today we have the situation that that is true. So, the question remains, how we determine whether something is fake news or not? So, for conclusions, we can say that limits of freedom of expression exist. Censorship is forbidden, but only if it's unlawful, because we have all other laws that prohibit censorship. Not only laws, but directives which are saying that some social media or press has to censor itself. Boundaries of limit of expression, of course, criminal offenses. Other boundaries in Article 2. Are the fake news the boundaries of freedom of expression? I must say I don't know. In some cases, if they are criminal offenses, of course they are. If fake news is defamation, is insult, is false alarm, of course it is the boundary. But what if not? What if it doesn't constitute a criminal offense? So that's the questions that we have to deal with in, as we say, pro futuro, in the future. There is also the question who is authorized to determine. Dr. Čufar said that court has said if something was fake or not. And I think that should stay in the court's focus and in the court's jurisdictions, and no one else can say whether it's something fake news or not. Only the courts, civil courts or criminal courts. In Croatia, we don't have criminal offense of fake news, but some situations could be subducted to existing criminal offenses. We have misdemeanor, and we don't have any practice for this misdemeanor. At practice, I mean case law. And for the persons who consider them as authorized to determine whether this is fake news or whether something is fake news or not, I think that they have to bear in mind the principle of checks and balance between the few fake news and possible repercussions and the truth, of course. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for everything today here, that I'm with you.